to be multilingual and as inclusive as possible. Let me now mention also that we are recording these meetings. This is the second of the meetings that we've held. We've already recorded the first that was held on Saturday, and that recording will be available on our project website soon. This meeting will also be available as a recording via the project website, so everyone should just know that they're being recorded. On my screen, at least, in the very upper left-hand corner, there's a little red dot that's lit up and the word recording next to it. So if you're on a computer, at least you should see that, and that's an indication that the recording is going on. Let me introduce all the folks who are here tonight. Here from the PlaceWorks team, in addition to me, are Carrie Stone, who's marked as Project Questions Asked Me, and she's waving. If you have any project questions about the general plan, you can send them in the chat to Carrie, there where it says Project Questions. We also have Torina Wilson, who's here, who's available to answer any questions about Zoom technology. You can send her a message in the chat if you need help with anything about Zoom. And then also Lindsay Klein and Ricardo Pozos are here as well from PlaceWorks, and Janet Chang, sorry. Janet's here as well, and the three of them will also be helping with facilitation. From the city of Hollister, we have Amber Cameron, Eva, and Aureli Perez, who are all here as city staff members. With that, we're going to go ahead and do an icebreaker activity. We have some polling questions for you, and Lindsay is going to put those up on the screen. And we'd like you to answer these 3 different questions. And as you enter your answers and press a button, we'll be able to see the results as they come in. So take a look at these questions. Which of the following describes you as a participant in tonight's meeting? What is your favorite thing about Hollister? And also whether you would like us to give a quick Zoom orientation or not. And we have one already, one early adopter and great, you know, the model student has already done his or her entry. There, we're getting a few more, thank you. Okay, there are about 7 of you who haven't yet. Great, we're getting a little bit more. Okay, we've pretty much got everybody. We've got one more person to go. Is there someone who knows they haven't yet filled out the poll and wants to do that still? Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and end the polling in about 5-10 seconds. So if you are that 14th person, maybe we'll catch you later, or you could put your information in the chat. But I think we'll end the polling now. And you can see here from the results that we've got a good mixture of folks tonight. We've got 9 people who are residents in the city. We've got 2 business owners. We've got 6 people who are representing community organizations, as well as some other affiliations as well. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of different input about what people like about Hollister. The most predominant answer are 6 people talking about the city's small town character, and then 2 who really like the neighborhoods, 1 person who likes the parks, 1 the schools, 1 the downtown, and 2 who noted other things. And it looks like everybody is very familiar with Zoom, so we're not going to need to do a Zoom orientation right now. So that's great to know about all the folks who are here and what some of your interests are and some of your affiliations. We don't have time for everyone to introduce themselves right now, but a little later tonight, when you're in small groups, we'll be able to let you get to know each other a little bit in the small group work that we do together. So at this point, I'm going to move into a presentation about the general plan. I'm going to share my screen, which will take just a little bit of work here. So bear with me. All right, there we go. And so this is our second visioning workshop tonight that we're engaged in. And it's great to have you all here. I'm going to take we've gone through the welcome and introductions, and I'm going to take about 15 minutes to do a presentation about the general plan and the vision statement that we'll be working on. We'll then have an opportunity to take a few questions from you and answer those. And then the bulk of our time tonight is going to be working in a couple of 3 or 4 small groups, depending on how many people arrive, to talk about the vision statement and your ideas for the vision statement. Then we'll get reports back from those groups, and we should adjourn the meeting by about 7:30 tonight. And if you do have questions, you can either put them in the chat or send them to Carrie about project questions. And we'll also have an opportunity for you to ask them orally at 6 when I'm done with the presentation. All right, so I'm going to just dive in here and talk a little bit about what is a general plan. And the courts call the general plan the Constitution for Growth and Development in California. And like the Constitution of the United States, it sets out sort of the basic policies about conservation, development, and growth within a jurisdiction. It doesn't have every detail, but it is a blueprint for conservation, growth, and development. It's the document that establishes Hollister's vision of how it wants to change, and it has within it goals, policies, and actions that give guidance as to how to achieve that vision. It's intended to provide a consistent direction for future development so that development really is well thought out. It's intended to balance growth, conservation, and quality of life. And it also documents existing baseline environmental conditions so that there can be an understanding of the environmental impacts of growth as it might occur. General plans by law are required to have a series of chapters that are referred to in the law as elements. And the reason they're called elements is they don't actually have to be standalone chapters. They can be organized in any number of ways, but all of these 7 subjects have to be considered. And the 7 subjects that are required are over here on the left side of the slide: land use, circulation, meaning how cars and other vehicles get around in the city, housing, conservation and natural resources, open space with agriculture, and then in Hollister, 2 of the required 7 elements are combined to talk about health and safety. So those are required elements. Your current general plan, which was adopted in 2005, also has an optional element, and the state allows you to have whatever elements you like. The city already has an optional element about community services. And then as part of this general plan update, we've been asked to also add elements about the arts, about economic development, and we're required by law to consider a new element for environmental justice, to talk about how to make sure that communities that are either communities of economic disenfranchisement or social or racial disenfranchisement might be treated and made sure that they're treated well and fairly. So those are all the elements that either are in your current general plan or will be as we work through this process. Our general plan update has a series of goals, and the most important of those is to engage a very broad spectrum of the community. This vision workshop and the other 3 that we're holding are a part of that effort to engage a very broad spectrum of the community. It's also to establish our vision for what you would like Hollister to be in the year 2040, and we're going to be talking about that today. But some of the things we've already heard are goals to maintain the small town agricultural character of Hollister, to manage growth in a way that's consistent with the overall community goals, to ensure high quality development, to support economic development, and of course to respond to state mandates and laws that have changed since 2005 that require us to make specific changes to the general plan. The project has a large number of components that actually go beyond the general plan update itself. And you can see this list here. It starts with the general plan update, which is really our main focus. But we're also doing some other things. We're helping the city to implement a new state law, which is Senate Bill 743, which changes the way we look at transportation to assess vehicle miles traveled instead of delay and congestion. We're also helping the city to create a climate action plan to respond to climate change. We're creating a hazard mitigation plan to deal with hazards like earthquakes and wildfires. We're preparing an environmental impact report that documents environmental conditions in the city, both now and moving forward. And we're updating the city's municipal service review, which is the document that the city needs before it can annex new properties into the city. So we're doing all of those things, and we're doing them for a planning area that's encompasses all of Hollister, but is actually larger than Hollister. Some of you may already know that the city has its own city limit, which is shown in this map with the black line that goes in and out quite a bit. It has a sphere of influence, which is a bit larger, which is the area that the city has designated as possibly being annexed in the future. The city has an urban service area, which is the area in which it can provide urban services, even to areas outside the city limits in the county. And then for this project, we've created an even bigger area, which is called the planning area, which is the area that's shown with the purple line. That's an area that may never be annexed, it may never be developed with urban uses, but it is of interest and concern to the city. And so we're going to be considering it as well as we put this general plan together. So all of this area, all the way out to the purple line, including the planning area, is the subject of the general plan. This is a process that has a very robust public engagement component. We have 6 series of workshops and events. We originally thought these would be one-time live workshops, 6 different events. As it's working out with COVID-19, each of these events will probably happen in multiple iterations to provide the most possible opportunity for engagement. So for instance, these 4 workshops on the vision just count as one workshop in that list of 6. We also have a website and a series of online activities, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. We have a general plan advisory committee, which has already met once and will meet 9 more times, and we'll be presenting to the Planning Commission and the City Council as well. We are very committed to outreaching to very diverse groups, particularly the Latino population in Hollister, but also to other groups as well. We're working with community leaders to reach out to all segments of the community. We're utilizing existing city contacts from departments and elected officials to make those contacts. We're translating all our outreach materials and interpreting all our meetings in Spanish, and we're structuring meetings so that we can accommodate diverse participation. So that commitment to diversity and participation is a very strong one on the part of the city, and I encourage all of you to reach out to the entire diverse community to make sure that we have as much involvement as possible. We do have a website that's up and running already. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to go and take a look at it. It is available in both English and Spanish, and it gives a lot of information about the general plan. It provides background about the general plan. It gives examples of public engagement opportunities. It has a calendar of events. It has all the past meetings on it with information. And it has also a series of online activities that you can engage in right now. And those are shown here. There's 4 different activities that are already online. There's a comment form about the vision exercise that we're doing tonight. There's a list of issues that you can rank in order as to which issues you think are most important. There's the opportunity to upload photos of sites that in Hollister that you think are either great examples that we should continue or things that need to be changed. And there's a word cloud where you can describe Hollister in just one word, which I know is hard, but we're asking you to do that. And then we'll be posting the word cloud of all the different ideas that come up so people can see those. And as I mentioned already, all of this is available in both English and Spanish. And so we hope that we'll get very broad and diverse participation on this website. This is our schedule for the project. As you can see here, we have a series of we're putting together right now a set of documents about baseline conditions, and we'll be doing that through October. We're simultaneously working with all of you on the vision, and we'll be working on that through September. Those 2 things happen concurrently, and once they're done, then we'll go into a series of policy assessments and design alternatives, which will happen in the fall and early winter of 2021. We'll put together the draft general plan itself through the first part of 2021, as well as those other work products. And we anticipate publishing the general plan, the other work products, and the environmental impact report in fall of 2021, so a little over a year from now. Once those have all been published, there will still be a long public review and adoption process that will take another 6 months or so. And so there will be lots of opportunities for public engagement and involvement. And we anticipate that the actual set of documents, most importantly, including the general plan itself, will be adopted in the winter of 2022, probably about a year and a half or a little more from now. We do, as I mentioned, also have a general plan advisory committee. That committee has two main functions, which are really of equal importance. One is to make recommendations to us and to city staff as we move documents forward to the Planning Commission and City Council to make sure that they really do meet what the city expects. The General Plan Advisory Committee is also serving as project ambassadors to spread the word about the general plan update and help us to make sure that we really get the word out about what's going on. The GPAC has 10 meetings planned. They're usually 2 hours per meeting. We make materials available in advance of them, and they do always have opportunities for public comment. The GPAC today consists of Mayor Ignacio Velasquez, Council Member Roland Resendez, as well as Planning Commissioner David Huboy. There are 2 additional slots on the commission, which are on the committee, which are currently vacant, one for one more planning commissioner and one for an at-large public member. Tonight's meeting is going to focus in on the general plan vision statement, and I'm going to spend a couple more minutes talking about the vision statement before we take your questions. This is intended to be a very succinct statement about what we hope Hollister will look like in the year 2040. We want it to express shared community values. We want it to relate to the topics in the general plan, primarily about growth, development, and conservation. And it's going to guide the preparation of general plan goals and policies. I want to mention that right now you have actually a really great general plan prepared in 2005, but one of the things it interestingly lacks is it doesn't have that succinct vision statement in it. And so we're hoping in this update process to gather together the ideas that are already in the general plan itself and that many of you already share and write them up in a succinct vision statement. Now you might ask, what does a vision statement really look like? This is a vision statement from another general plan from the city of Calistoga up in the northern part of the San Francisco Bay Area. And you can see that it's quite succinct. This is the entire statement, just 3 paragraphs, and we're looking to write something that's that short and succinct for Hollister. But you can see if we read through it quickly that it covers a lot of ground in a very short statement. Talks about Calistoga being a walkable small town, vibrant, eclectic main street, pedestrian-oriented neighborhoods, modestly sized homes, surrounded by wineries, vineyards, and agricultural lands. The climate, the Palisades, which are some surrounding hills, the Napa River and the creeks frame the physical identity. Now, obviously, Hollister's issues are going to be different, but this is a very succinct statement of the physical characteristics of the town. Then it goes on to talk about visitors being an important part of what makes Calistoga tick. It is largely a tourist-serving attraction. Visitors come to Calistoga due to its unique small-town character, shops, restaurants, spas, and surrounding natural beauty. A strong sense of belonging for its residents, a broad array of buildings from the 19th and 20th century that make it a multifaceted streetscape and economically diverse. So a lot of important qualities there. And then the statement that Calistoga wants to retain these qualities into the future, provide a vibrant economy linked to the social structure, and conserving the ecosystem to support Calistoga and remain a community in which its residents can take pride. So a lot of ideas here in a very short statement. We're obviously not going to have the same ideas in Hollister, but something short and succinct like this that hits on a lot of points is what we aim to come up with. Here's another vision statement from the city of San Mateo. In this one, they elected to have an even shorter statement that you see here, just really, just one sentence that's here. And then they added a series of values, and we'll be talking about values this evening as well, of what are the important values for the city of San Mateo. So that's another way to prepare a vision statement. So the vision statement will have a series of sentences in it, and those will provide the basis for the rest of the general plan. So the vision statement, for example, might have a statement saying something like that residents will be able to live and work in Hollister. That could be translated into several goals, and one of those goals might be increased local jobs. And then the general plan might have both policies and actions that would be directives to achieve that goal. So a policy might be to add new land use designations for commercial job generating uses at the airport. An action might be that the city would develop a program to attract new businesses to the industrial park. So you can see how from one sentence in the vision statement, and of course there'll be many sentences, but each of those sentences might result in multiple goals, and each goal might result in multiple policies and actions. Tonight, we'll be talking about the vision statement only, and then through the course of this project, we'll be looking at the goals, policies, and actions. So we've got a lot of issues that we've already heard of that we think you might want to include in the vision statement. You can see some of them listed here. We've heard about growth management, circulation and traffic, economic development, community identity, the downtown as the community's core, agricultural preservation. These are just some ideas to get you started. And tonight you're going to have a chance to talk about which of these issues are important to you and what's your vision for each of them. So in the small group, we're going to divide you into breakout rooms after we do questions and answers. We're going to lead you in a discussion about your values, the key issues, and your vision. There will be note takers recording comments, and then at the end, a spokesperson from your group will report back to the large group. We are capable of conducting a group in Spanish as well, but I believe we've heard that no one here would want to be in a Spanish group, so I think we'll conduct all the groups in English instead tonight. But if you do want Spanish for your small group work, you could send us a chat message and we can do a group in Spanish if you would like that. That's the end of the presentation for now. I'm going to stop the screen sharing so we can all see each other again. And I'm going to open it up for some quick questions before we break into the groups. Who has a question that they would like? And Carrie, can you tell me, has anyone submitted a question to you?
I have not received any questions.
Okay. If you have a question, you can wave your hand and we'll unmute you and we can answer any questions you have. Rebecca, and I'm not sure if it's Chris. Yeah. Can you, Lindsay, can we unmute? There we go.
Great, there we go. So you talked about the 05 general plan. Is that available? Yeah. Someplace that we can see online, not necessarily for today, but would like to see kind of what it was back then. You made reference to it. It was pretty good.
Yeah. Great question. Yeah, and to be clear, we're going to be updating it. We're going to be using most of it again. So it is great to get to know what's in it. And it is already available on the General Plan Project website. So you can go to the website and get a copy in the background document section there.
Great, thank you.
Who else has a question?
This is Lindsay with PlaceWorks. Someone just messaged me and asked a question that said, please explain circulation.
All right, circulation is a fancy planner word for transportation, transit, and how people get around. So it includes automobiles and how they drive around in the city, traffic going out on Highway 25 and other highways out of the city. It also includes capacity for bicycles and pedestrians, the design of the streets to allow for pedestrians and bicycles. It includes transit, buses. Some people have already talked with us about possibly train service in the future going out to Gilroy. So it includes all of those concepts of how people can move around within the city, both within the city and getting out of the city to other locations. Roxanne. Can we unmute Roxanne?
Hi, thank you. So I was just curious if you were able to tell us anything about the previous group that met, because I believe there was another group that met on Saturday. Is it possible to get a little idea of what came out of that meeting?
You know, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. Let me just say it was a great meeting. We are going to summarize all the meetings for the GPAC, and you'll be able to watch them all online if you'd like to. I'm not wanting to keep it a secret, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. I also don't want to prejudice your discussion, but I think it's fair to say that that list of issues that I put on the slide that talks about managing growth, the downtown as a center, agricultural preservation, housing for all, enhanced transportation, particularly pedestrians and bikes and transit, better capacity on Highway 25. Those were all issues that came up for that group.
Okay. Thanks.
Others who might want to ask a question. Rebecca? We're working at cross purposes here. There we go.
Okay. I was on a group called Vision San Benito in 2008, but I believe it was a county plan. Is there another group working on a county plan, and we're can we somehow mesh the two, or
This is a great question. So under state law, every jurisdiction has its own general plan. So every city has a general plan, and every county has a general plan that covers only the parts of the county that are not in a city. And the county did just update its general plan about, the time frame you're talking about. I'm not exactly familiar with the name of that group, but I do know that the county general plan was updated it was finalized about 5 years ago. So probably you're referring to a group that worked on the county general plan. So they won't be merged together as a single process, but we will be looking at the county's general plan as we consider what should go in the city's general plan.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we go into the groups? All right, so the group is a little smaller tonight than we expected. We've got about 15 people here. I guess we'll probably, Lindsay, do 3 groups. Is that right?
Yes, so we'll have 3 groups. And so when staff clicks onto the Google Doc, they'll see the name of where they should be going as well.
Okay, so what's going to happen now, and someone from Placework should correct me if I say any of this wrong, but you will be assigned to a group and you will automatically go there. And when you get there, you will find approximately 4 other members of the public with you, as well as 2 staff or consultants who are going to be there to facilitate the groups. I'm going to roam, as it were, and visit each group as an observer, but you'll be there as members of the public, about 5 people altogether, plus the 2 facilitators and note takers. Before we go, are there any final questions for the large group? Otherwise, we'll get into the meat of the meeting and let you talk about your vision. All right, are we ready to assign the groups, Lindsay? You're on mute, Lindsay.
Yes, all right, there you go, guys. You should be getting a message right now to get sent out.
All right, have fun.
Okay, I'm gonna take off then.
Fine. Okay, wait, 1 sec. So you
Yeah.
were explaining, I put someone into a waiting room. Does that mean I can then reassign them somewhere else now?
What do you mean reassign them? Well, what happens
I
when
don't
you turn on breakout room, the icon?
What do you mean? Well, so I'm looking at the breakout rooms right now, and I don't have anyone unassigned.
Okay, yeah. So it might have been that maybe they're not at their computers, or they didn't know to press accept waiting room, or not waiting room, sorry, the breakout rooms. So maybe that's why they were staying in the main meeting. So that's why you just kind of like push them along into the room. Are they showing up now under each room?
So I put him back into the, I'm recording now that everyone's back in the main room.
Great. Okay. And thank you all. I was able to go around and listen in on all 3 groups at various times. And it seems like they went pretty well and got some pretty interesting results. And I know that there are reporters for each of the groups. One pattern I see is that people who are 2 people on the screen like to be reporters, because it's both Rebecca and Anita's son, Tristan, right, is your name, right? So, and then I didn't actually get the name of the 3rd reporter. Who is going to report for group number 4? Ricardo, who did you go choose?
Dawn. I think Dawn is reporting, David.
Dawn? Okay, great. So we'll start with Rebecca and then go to Tristan and then go to Dawn. Oh, this is Tristan's group. Why don't we start with Tristan's group, since Tristan's group seems to be right here. Tristan, do you want to start?
There we go. I think here's. So yeah, we want to be able to develop strong interagency communications and partnerships between landowners and governmental agencies. Like, you know, we want to be able to communicate with the county effectively, and make sure that everyone's getting the same information, so that we can just make better, smarter choices in developing areas, and by doing so, that can help us find some of the broader implications for planning. So how is something going to affect an area long term by zoning it as you know, either residential or commercial, and so in for urban planning. What's that? Yeah. Okay. That we want to make sure that we keep all areas that are developed, that we want to keep all of Hollister very diverse. So we want to make sure that we don't have just, you know, fancy rich neighborhoods and rundown poor neighborhoods to allow easier gentrification. We want to make sure that all ethnic and religious groups are well represented and that people all feel like they have a place to belong here. So by doing that at like at a city or county level, and if we have I don't even know what I'm saying, but yeah, equity. So there should be a place for everyone to fit in. We should have resources for all people, especially since the internet's important. We need to have make sure that we maintain an adequate public library and places for people to go. And like after school, people need stuff to do. Make sure that there are places for people who aren't in organized sports or whatever to go engage with the community. There should be more arts, more public spaces for people to free play. You know, you don't necessarily have to be part of a team to do anything, and just have a place that you can walk to, which brings me to the point of residential developments as a whole need to be broken up into like small communities that are somewhat sustainable. So you don't have to get in your car to drive to the store. You can walk to a market to get food, because we already have a lot of houses that you have to drive to get anywhere because you're nowhere near a market of any sort. So health and safety is very important. and commuting has impacts on that. Having to drive to the store does have impacts on that. If you are able to walk around and see where you live, I think it makes you feel like more of a part of the community. And the way to keep a safer community is to have everyone feel like they're a part of it. So is that as far as we got? I feel like we had more.
Yeah, that's a great report. We do need to watch time for everybody. I know you guys did cover other items. I see
We're
here
going to do
historical
that.
preservation, economic growth. But why don't we stop there and hear from the other two groups? And I just want to make sure everyone knows that we'll make sure all of these notes get posted, and there'll be the recording of the meeting itself. So all of this will go in. We just can't go through every point right now. We need to limit the presentations to about 2 minutes each. So let's go now. Tristan, that was great. Let's go now to Rebecca, if we can, and share the screen for her group, which I'm honestly not quite sure how we do that. Lindsay, though, is the master of all things.
Already there.
Is that it? Okay.
Yep. We felt like the community and cohesiveness would be something we want to maintain in our small town feel. And doing that with equity and inclusivity, making sure all groups feel valued in Hollister. The notion of keeping people connected, we felt like, especially during this COVID, that people have come out of the woodwork, basically, that you never see, because we're a bedroom community a lot for commuters. And so some of the concerns that we have are having our community grow so doesn't have that small town feel. We want to keep that small town feel and provide for the residents who are here some more entertainment opportunities in the form of parks, open spaces. Would it be an arts center downtown with theater and music offerings? Bowling alley was brought up. Just having things for people to do while they are in Hollister, not having to leave town for those things, as well as for work. We felt like the arts were important, and making sure that the arts are valued. We want to promote the small businesses and make it a place that people who own small businesses can afford. So maintaining that affordability in Hollister for everyone. And that will help build that small town feel as well. This group talked about public art and making Hollister a place that people want to visit, and not just, it's not just a satellite for San Jose or other towns in Santa Clara Valley.
Got about 10 to 20 more seconds.
Yep, I think that's about it. We would just address it with, possibly developing the downtown and attracting businesses where people can do things other than just bars, restaurants I personally like, but just other activities that people can do together, and getting people out of their homes.
Great, thank you. Last group we have is called group number 4 out of our 3 groups, and I believe Dawn is going to present, and Lindsay is finding the notes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to not cover the things that the other groups covered. I'm going to talk about the things on our list that we talked about that weren't covered. We talked about agricultural preservation. Hollister has an abundance of great agricultural land, and we want to make sure that that is not taken up with houses. We want to make sure that we can attract jobs to our town that bring us jobs that pay enough for people to live on, that have benefits. We want to make sure that our educational abilities are increased. We probably need a new high school. We talked about transportation, the road circulation. We need to get our kids back and forth to school. So we need biking and walking paths for them. We'd like buses and maybe trains for commuters. Let's see what else. We want to make sure that what else have I got on my list here? that we have. I think other people have talked about it too, but we spend a lot of time talking about our homeless population and ways that we can assist with that and see if we can do something to provide them with places to live. I think that pretty much covers our extra things. If I missed something, guys, I'm sorry.
That was a great summary. Thank you very much. And that brings us pretty close to the end of our meeting. We'll probably unshare the screen so we can all see each other a little more. And I want to do a brief summary of what I think we heard. And thank you all very much for being here. You know, I did bop around to each of the three groups also, so I heard a fair amount of the discussion also. And I think that the three reports we just got back were a good summary of many of the things we heard. And I kept hearing some of these same values over and over again in all three groups. I mean, the first and foremost thing did seem to be that small town feel that people really love about Hollister, and also the values of diversity, equity, inclusivity, all kind of lumped together. I think really a community that welcomes all and is responsive to all people, as well as sustainability and maintaining health and safety for all people. All seemed like values that are really important to all of the groups. And then when you got down to talking about more details, I heard many similar themes also, which we just heard in the reports back. So one of the top things was about higher quality jobs, economic development, jobs that pay better would lessen commuting, and that seemed very important to people also. So that notion of economic development was important. And several of the groups also talked about housing and wanting to manage growth, but also to be able to accommodate housing, and particularly all types of housing that keeps the diversity of Hollister, that doesn't just focus, as one group said, not just for the wealthy or just for the less wealthy, but really a diversity of housing types. There was lots of talks about various types of services in the community and attractors in the community, public spaces, parks, an art center, activities for youth, bowling, a library expansion, other services. All of that was talked about in all of the groups, as well as public art. And I know many of you here tonight are big advocates for the public arts. There was a lot of support for the downtown as a center for the community, support for small businesses, and support for enhancing the transportation system, particularly bikes and pedestrians, but also thinking about roadways in town, thinking about bus service, and perhaps even looking at a train at some point. Although I think given the numbers of people, that may be a long ways off, but at least perhaps starting to think about that. And then a strong emphasis from a couple of groups on maintaining the footprint of the city, maintaining agriculture around the edges of Hollister, and being able to have a defined boundary to the urban development, and not encouraging sprawl, but encouraging more containment. So those were all themes I think that we heard in all of the groups. And I will say there were some differences. I think this tonight was a little more focused on values than you know, somebody asked about what happened on Saturday. The Saturday group was a little more focused on specific outcomes, but had a lot of the same themes in those outcomes. And I really admire tonight how you did focus on a lot of those values like diversity, equity, inclusivity, and sustainability. So we're going to write all of this up. It'll all be part of the notes for this meeting, and then our next steps. And I can share my screen again just to show you these upcoming dates, if I can successfully get this to happen here. Here we go. Bear with me for a moment. So there are 2 more workshops coming up, and I'd encourage all of you to encourage your friends and family to come to these. They are all identical workshops, so even if you missed number 1, you're here at number 2. You don't need to come to numbers 3 or 4, but we'd sure like to have others attend meetings 3 and 4. We've set one early in the morning because that's convenient for some people, so it's at 7 a.m. on Wednesday, July 8th. And then our final workshop is the same time, 6 p.m. on Thursday, July 9th. And as I mentioned, these are available in both English and Spanish. And I'd love it if each of you could set a goal for yourself to encourage 1 or 2 or 3 people that you know to come to these workshops so that we get even broader participation. And then once we've had all 4 workshops, we're going to summarize all of that input and create a vision statement like the ones that I showed you for Calistoga and for San Mateo. It'll be obviously specific to Hollister, and it'll include the ideas that have come out of these workshops. And we'll be bringing that to the General Plan Advisory Committee, the GPAC, for its second meeting that'll occur in either in late August or perhaps early September. We're still trying to work out an exact date, but that'll be a public meeting. That'll be the time when we unveil a unified vision statement to support this entire general plan update. And it would be great if some of you want to attend that and observe the meeting and give input at that meeting as well. I know the GPAC members would welcome all of your participation there. And I think that wraps up most of the meeting. Carrie or others, are there any other things that you think of that we need to announce? And if not, we could see if any members of the public have any comments, and otherwise we'll wrap up.
There is a question I just had here from a Carminder Brown, who asked, are people who live anywhere in the county invited to these meetings?
Yes, we had a couple people here, at least one person tonight who's even from outside the county but has business interests in Hollister and the county. Anyone who has an interest in Hollister is welcome to be here. The general plan does by definition cover the areas only inside of the city. That includes both areas inside the city today, as well as areas that are expected to be added to the city in the future. But even though that's the limit of the general plan, the interactions between Hollister and the rest of San Benito County are so strong that it is important to the city to get input from people all over the county. In the end, it is the city council who will adopt the general plan, and it is Hollister's general plan. So if there were conflicts between Hollister and the county, which I don't think there often are, but if there were some, I'm sure the city would adopt measures that are specifically to support the city. But that said, we really do want input from everybody, whether they're inside the city limits or outside the city limits. Any other questions or comments before we wrap up? Anita?
Muted? Oh, okay. It seems like we're missing, we've got over 50% Hispanic in Hollister, and they're not here.
That's a great point. I spoke to the mayor and council member Resendez about that today.
Well, yeah, Spanish speaking.
Yeah, so I made them aware of this, and they're going to redouble their efforts to reach out to the Spanish-speaking community, the Latino community, to try and get more participation at our meetings on July 8th and 9th. I'd encourage all of you to do that, particularly Salvador and others, if you have contacts. It is a little bit harder at this time because of COVID. Normally to reach the Latino community, we might go to a school meeting, or we might go to a mass at the church, or things like that. Can't really do that right now. So we do have postcards in English and Spanish. We can make those available electronically. There are physical postcards also that are available at City Hall. If you would like to get some outreach information, we can make that available to you so you can distribute it in English or Spanish, but we're very much committed to making those connections, and we do want to welcome all the help that we can get.
Yeah, and I do know some people in the Hispanic community that are going to be talking to some of their friends and associates, try to get more of the Spanish speakers to get involved in the next couple of meetings. So sometimes some people just get a little nervous.
Absolutely.
But we're going to emphasize to them that it is going to be in Spanish, and that way they feel more comfortable. And hopefully we get more numbers. But that's a good point.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I not to put too fine a point on this, but I know the Spanish-speaking community can sometimes be concerned about interacting with the government in other ways and all sorts of things. I do let people know that it's a very casual meeting. It's local government. There's no enforcement here or anything else that could become a problem. We really do welcome people of all types, whoever they are, to be able to come to these meetings and participate. And we have both languages available. So please do help to spread that news. That would be great. And Eva put up on the chat, if you can see that, she's got the email address, generalplan@hollister.ca.gov. If you send an email to that address, we can send the outreach materials to you electronically or arrange for you to pick some up physically if you want to do that. Anything else before we wrap up? Dawn?
Just a quickie question. Did you, in your final, we spent a lot of time talking about schools and education. I just wanted to make sure that you include that in your summary too.
We will cover that. I didn't want to interrupt any of the groups to mention it, but I think many of you probably know that the public schools and the school district are a separate legal entity. So of all the things government does, one of the few things that the general plan can't really cover very much is the educational system, because it is the subject of the public schools, which is a separate body. So we can have some policies about coordinating with the school district. I know in Hollister there has been very good coordination in the past. There are some communities where that's better or worse. It is very important to have good coordination, but the city can't control the school district itself, so we're a little bit limited there.
Swimming pool at the high schools.
Yeah, that was one of the big issues, was a new high school.
Right. So a new high school, I mean, the city could help identify a site for it, but other than that, it would be really up to the school district to both find the money or float the bonds and then do the actual planning and building of the high school.
Right.
Any final items before we break up? All right, well, I want to thank you all very much for being here. I know city staff and leaders are very appreciative of your efforts as well. Do tell your friends to come on July 8th and 9th, and hopefully we'll see some of you at the meeting of the GPAC in late August. And we'll be sending out email announcements and posting them to our website as to exactly when that meeting is. Thank you all very much. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.